Okay, so I'm president of ICF. I'm Master Certified Coach with ICF and also Master Practitioner with the MCC. And I do a lot of mental coaching, which was one of my favourite things. I coach, train, and also I'm an accredited supervisor and certified agile coach. So just to let you know, we've got three programs coming up. We've got mental coaching to train to be a mental coach. And then we've also in Jan, we've got our Deep Dives Level 5 program, which I know some of you have attended. And then in February, the executive team and board, the systemic team coaching focus and the psychometric in there. So without further ado, here is where the foundations of the CoachME model came from. So it's about co-creating learning and totally aligned to ICF, deepening the understanding of the coachee and the teams, and also forwarding action, moving them towards where they need to be in the time scale that they need to get there, and we partner with them along the way. If you think of the word coach, it derives from a coach, a horse and cart being pulled, and we sit there in that carriage with the coachee or the teams as we work together. Now, the model is non-linear and non-cyclical. So if you think of the GROW model, it's a foundational model: goal, reality, options, willingness, wrap up, and so forth. And it was designed to work in that way. Now, what research has showed us is the human mind does not work in coaching in a linear way. Okay, so it doesn't say, what are my goals? What's happening now? What options have I got? What action can I take? What did I get out the session? Quite often, we bounce backwards and forwards into different elements of the discovery and also the play, as we like to call it, in the coaching session. Okay, so we felt that was really important. The other thing is my background was originally a teacher and then MBA lecturing and so forth. And so we've used a lot of adult learning theory in the model as well, in terms of the way adults learn best. And then the goal is the growth and development of employees when we use workplace coaching. If there's one word to sum up workplace coaching, I would say performance coaching. So our ACTP program is actually, it's a certification in performance coaching in the many elements that are included. Of course, the model can be used with life coaching, career coaching, coaching teens, health and fitness, and so forth. It was specifically designed for executive team and board and workplace coaching, because that was something we noticed about 8 years ago when it was developed, that was something missing, a really clear focus on workplace. So I'll say more about that shortly. So coaches enable coachees to hear themselves. And one thing we really advocate is what we call spaciousness in a coaching session, so that the person being coached hears themselves beyond the words that are being said. And we give them time to really go here and reflect on what's going on for them in that moment in the coaching session. So the difference between a conversation and a coaching conversation is that it's intentional. And what we do at the start is examine together what results the coachee wants for the session. Okay, so I know some of you have been on the program, have probably heard me say this before. If you imagine two train lines, one is the results for the session, it's a results focused model, and one is their big, massive life-term results and how those weave together. So if you're coaching a team, listen to this terminology. What results do your team need out of this session today? Notice the word need instead of want. What do your stakeholders, be it customers, regulators, governments, whoever, what do your stakeholders need you to focus on in this session today? Why this session? Why this topic now? And notice here I use the word topic as opposed to problem or issue, because so many times in coaching, which is quite right, people come with a topic. It doesn't mean that we're always working on things down here that need fixing. And fixing is actually, you know, more of a terminology for counselling and psychotherapy. Sometimes people come and this is going well for them, and they want even more of it in their team or their organization. Okay. The other thing about results, always ensure that the start of the session, even if it's 80-20. So what I mean by that is 20% of the session is focusing on really clearly establishing the results for the session and the way that links to the bigger picture. And the other 80%, which may be, oh gosh, is that enough time? The other 80% will be in flow because you've really clarified the goals for the session. Make sense? And the other types of questions there with results are things like, what ways will we measure together the results for this session? And using their qualitative and quantitative. So in terms of qualitative, what we'll have is things like, how do you feel right now that we've established the goals for the session? And the person may feel that bit better than the moment they entered the coaching session because of a little bit of clarity. Okay, halfway through the session, check in. What we're doing right now, what way is that achieving the goals that you wanted for this session? And then at the end of the session, what are you experiencing now compared to the start of the session? So that's a qualitative measure for the session, because they may say, well, I came in the session confused and now I'm feeling a little bit lighter. So there's a shift from the work that's taken place. The other measures are quantitative. So it may be something like, where are you 0 to 10 on this topic right now? And then at the end of the session, and where are you now? And they may have moved from 2 to 8. Or it may be, I want to leave this session with an action plan in terms of enabling my team to work more effectively together. Okay, that's a good goal for a session. And then at the end, so in terms of this action plan, what are you taking away from this session? Okay, so again, we're keeping measurement in there. Now, I'm stressing this a lot, and the reason is it is written really clearly in the new ICF called Competencies around we need measures for the impact of the session, which is brilliant. So what we're really happy about, this is a results focused model, and that makes it totally aligned to the new ICF competencies. Okay. The other thing around results for the session is, what do you want to experience during the session? Or what type of coach do you need me to be in this session today? Is it nicely, shui shui? Or is it, you know, hardcore, really be fierce courage as a coaching competence with me? Okay. I've said a lot there, quite fast around results. Just let me go to the chat box and let me know, is there any questions? Unmute yourselves if you wish to ask any questions right now. So the chat, we've got, okay, perfect. So shall we move on? Hi there to the people that have just joined. So what we've got here is, it's all about being in partnership and staying with them where they're at, and staying with them in terms of their energy, their tone and pitch of voice, and we stay with them to deepen the understanding, and we dance in the moment with them. The next bit is to shift the energy, whether it's physically moving and using geography, or whether it is asking a question that bit faster or that bit slower and quieter, so that you create an impact of shift, and that takes them to new perspectives, along with the powerful questioning. So the questioning is about two things. The question you ask, ideally, obviously open, non-leading, but also the way that it's asked. Now, again, we're really pleased that 8 years ago, we included transition planning in the model. Where are you now? Where do you need to be? And aligned to agile coaching, what are the milestones along the way? What way can you work iteratively around this result? What dependencies or setbacks may happen during this journey? So it also brings in all the fundamentals of project management in the new competencies. So the transition piece is really important, and stay with that before jumping to action and accountability. Okay, and then reflection. So what we've got with reflection, of course, we use the model as a coach. What skills have I got? What knowledge have I got? Who am I being as a coach? What behaviors? And then we reflect on action and inaction. So this is the work we embedded into the model from Scon, for example, who talks about reflective practice. And reflecting in the moment is, should I wait a bit longer or ask that question now? Okay, that's reflecting in the moment. Reflecting on action is after the session, looking back, what went well, what could I have done even better, and so forth. Okay, so remember, this model is for us as coaches as well as for coachees, and we encourage you after a few sessions to share the model. It may be overwhelming in the first session, to share the model with the people you're coaching so that they can even notice where they are in the model during the session. So starting with results is obviously a good place to start. Sometimes we may start with reflection. We encourage, what do you want coaching on today? It's never an absolute plan of what's going to happen in any coaching project or engagement, okay? And then they may bring in, well, I want to discuss first what happened during the last session, and I want to share with you what I worked upon, okay? So they're talking about action and reflection. Or it may be this session, maybe something brand new that they're bringing to the session because of something that's happened that week, okay? So that's the piece around reflection. And soon we have a reflective journal for the person who's being coached, and soon we're bringing out a reflective journal for coaches and supervisors and mentors to be able to continue to reflect on their practice. And we've got a rubric in there to help you to see how deep your reflections go. So the other bit of the model is knowledge. The types of things you might ask there, just going back to the model, when the results for the session have been established. What do you know right now around X? And X is the topic, and X, use their exact words. Be a mirror and mirror back their exact words, okay? What further knowledge do you need to move forward with this particular topic? There's another knowledge type question. Or I know, Will, thinking of yourself as a mirror, it's just such a powerful metaphor. And many times, of course, the NLP element of we are mirroring their experience in the session as well. And sometimes with parallel processes, we're even mirroring what's going on in their system, in their world, in their family, in their work. We may well be mirroring that in the session as well. Now that goes deep, okay? So the experiential element. What CoachMe is not is let's sit down and coach robotically, okay? We really encourage you to use geography, to play, to move, to bring in role play, empty chair, sitting them in that chair, inviting them to be their line manager, speaking in the I as the line manager so they can experience from someone else's perspective. That comes from psychodrama. So those type of things, this playing and exploring, we feel is really important. And then also tapping into intuition, just having a blank canvas, connecting somatically, allowing them to embody what's going on for them, and to just share randomly whatever's coming up. One example of this, in fact, let's play with this. So just briefly, think of something in your life that you're working on. For the purpose of this brief activity, don't go too, don't go too deep on this. Everyone got something? So what I invite you to do now is literally glance around the room. You may be outside, glance around wherever you are, thinking of that thing you're working on. Think of a question for yourself around that thing you're working on, and notice what's jumping out to you in your environment. Focus on one thing in your environment that's jumping out to you. Okay? So I'll share with you vulnerably, my home office is our guest room, our spare room. And what I'm looking at now is two things, and they're in the same direction. One of them is a green towel, and it's a real grass green, bright green towel. And the other one is a green picture with lots of trees. And my question was about strategy and growth. And my learning from that is, if the universe is showing me green right now, there's something to think about, there's something to explore. So let's just go off the slides for a second. Anyone else like to share, and you don't have to share the topic or the question, anyone else like to share what came up for them around that brief activity?
It's yeah, Dr. Clay, it's Will. So I noticed water, and for this current project I'm working on, this was a reminder for me to be more fluid and flexible.
Wow.
Right? Sort of take the shape of the environment. Don't be so rigid. Go with the flow.
Brilliant. And if we were in a coaching session, I'm going to challenge you, Will. What question might you choose to ask the coachee next? Because I can throw one at you, but even better, what question would you ask the coachee if they shared that?
Tell me, how deep in the water are you at this point? Where is the water?
I love it. What came up for me there was how much water.
Yeah. Water can be. Go ahead.
What's really important about flow? Flow like what? And what else is there about flow?
What's getting in the way of your flow at this point?
Brilliant. And that takes us down there into the discovery. Absolutely. And then on the other side is what's working right now in terms of flow. Fabulous. Thank you for playing, Will. High five. Thank you. Anyone else like to share before we move on? Okay, it's a good activity, isn't it? Sorry, I'll have to jump through the slides. Okay, so we were talking about knowledge, and then we moved into, you know, the deepening of the understanding by, number one, going into the body, embodiment and somatic. What's going on in your body right now in this coaching session? What are you experiencing? And experiencing is such a better question than what are you feeling? Because if you give a what are you feeling question, they will give you a what they're feeling answer. Whereas more spacious is what are you experiencing, because it brings in so many different senses. Okay. And then the other bits of the model. So we talked about the experiencing, and then we looked around the room, drawing, sourcing on whatever's there for the coachee. And this then becomes something that they can use their intuition in other parts of their life when they are out of the coaching session. Because of course, the job of the coach is to finally make yourself redundant so that they can coach themselves and tap into coaching with us when they need it at tricky times or critical fun times in their life. Okay, down the line. So in brief, what is a model? Now, I know this session is quite lecture, and I'm very good. I have a fabulous skill of trying to deliver too much in a session. And I know we will not be reading all the slides, number one, because that's boring. Number two, this is a snapshot, and I promise to send you all the slides. So what is a model? In the technological, in the real deep terms, it's a device that highlights the key elements of a process. Now, a really important thing for coaches, trust in the process. If you're ever in a session and you feel like, oh gosh, is this okay? Check in with the coachee. What's going on for you right now in this session? What progress have we made together in this session? You'll be amazed sometimes. They might be staring out the window and you're thinking, ooh, is this working? And they are so in the zone. If we don't check in with them, we don't know. But trust in the process. That model is like your security blanket, and play with the model. The dip in and out of the different elements, and you may not necessarily go into all those elements in one session. You may stay a long time in a particular one. And of course, for recording purposes, we need the results, we need the process, the reflection element, bring in a systemic focus whenever possible, and we need towards action transition planning. And of course, it can be leaving with an inquiry. It doesn't have to be, well, an inquiry is an action. It doesn't have to leave with something that they are going to physically do. Okay, so some of the things at the bottom here, coaching models are tools for us all to work with and to share together. We have this as a map so people can literally jump around the model. It's great with team and board coaching to stand in the bit of the model that's being worked on. It really works well. It's to do with morphogenic fields, which comes from quantum physics, and connecting with what you are stepping into. It also aligns very well with constellation work, tapping into the knowledge in our systems and the space between the people to learn what's there. And then we can also do that online with things like Miro, where you move around. It can be faces or names. You move around the model as you coach. cultural elements. So the ICF new competencies have changed some of the wording specifically to make it more inclusive. So one of them was intimacy, which when translated in some cultures was a little bit uncomfortable. So the wording's been changed to make it more inclusive, which is great. Of course, there's no one right or wrong way to coach. And even with the model, every single session is just so different. We know that we're making clear to the coachee what we are working with, the fundamentals of coaching as opposed to other developmental tools. And skills, knowledge and behaviours in the model we often put together. And when you think in organisational terms, this model is extremely beneficial for things like performance management as ongoing conversations. So one thing, I was working recently for a few years with Qatar Financial Centre, and we developed, it's a rather long sentence, performance management coaching conversation cards. And these cards give questions for parts of the model, especially for those people who are new to leading or supervising. And they are all linked to the organizational values. So it works as a sort of foolproof way to keep questions alive for performance management purposes. And then we talked about clarifying the results and the play. So again, self-reflection is there at the top of this slide, because we really feel the way to grow into masterful coaching is to journal and keep reflecting on your practice. Okay, and here are some of the questions that you may wish to ask yourself. Pencil in time after sessions, just to be with what was going on in that session. What I do is I sit in the place where I was, or if I'm walking and coaching, I walk in the same place to be back in that space when reflecting on practice. What were the boundaries of the coaching? And to flip that, what way could boundaries have been broken down to have made the coaching session even more impactful? What core practices am I using? And look at patterns there. What practices are you using over time as a habit? And which ones are great and which ones, just like driving, we can get into bad habits? And which practices are you unconsciously not using? And by listening back to recordings, that becomes evident. Where does more attention need to be focused? So by looking at the model, we didn't look at transition planning together in that session. Okay, that is one example of a place that may need more attention in that session. So, linked to that, I mentioned before, Chris Argyris and his partner, SCON, all the way back from 1974. The idea is double and triple loop learning when we reflect on and in practice. So we reflect and then we go out there and we coach again to work on the development areas that we have noticed. And obviously partnering with a mentor coach and a supervisor supports us in our blind spots as well, so that we together can use the mentor coach or supervisor as a professional sounding board to further develop our practice. Any questions? Okay, so I mentioned a lot about adult learning. Experiential learning, which is what we encourage in coaching sessions, has been proven to be a way that many adults learn best. We need to tap into what type of learners people are: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, reading and writing, and so forth. And psychometrics can support with, are they activist or pragmatist? But we also need to stretch them into areas that are not their major preference, and to do that experientially, to let them have a go at something. So imagine I am your teenage daughter right now. What will you say to me when you see me next? That type of play help lock in the learning, okay? And then you step out from that, physically moving whenever possible, to look back at the situation and see what comes up for you. We can also ask the person being coached, what are you reflecting on right now? In terms of your behavior and who you are being with your teenage daughter, what needs to shift? And of course, the other side, the sunshine, and what's going well that you can strengthen even more. So the other thing is situational learning. So what's needed in this particular topic or context? This has been a massive one during COVID because the horizon in strategy is closer, things are more complex and changing constantly. So what is the biggest growth edge for you in terms of the last 9 months? What have you strengthened in terms of your skills, knowledge, and behaviours? And of course, as well as that strengthening strengths, there's also the piece around enabling a coachee to become unstuck and the spotlight on that. What's stuck? Just a simple 2-word question. What's stuck to you? What will being unstuck bring to you, to your team, to the organisation, to the community, to the country? All of that takes it really systemic and wide. So what's stuck for you in terms of this topic? That's one of the focus elements, okay? And then, So Carl Rogers talks about reflecting on choices. One thing that's important here is when a coach says, I can do this, we don't run with that. We stay with it. And what else can you do? And think of a wacky, zany way out idea that you can do. Really go wide and deep. And out of all these, and get them to recap, the onus is on them. Don't do the work yourself because it's their learning. And out of all of these options, which one resonates? Which one do you experience is right in terms of how you are feeling in your body right now? Okay. So the model can help to prompt us and keep us on track. And also, just because of time, I'm missing out a few slides here. So interestingly, Will brought flow into this session. And the idea is to flow between the different facets of the model, dancing together to bring them all, or the ones that are needed, into the coaching conversation. I want to get now to this bit. So this is the new competency model on the right with the 8 different main competencies that are then broken down, as you'll know from the ICF website. And what I've worked on here is to explain where, for example, the different bits of the model relate to the competencies. Now, the other thing is the company is called BMC, Belief, Momentum, and Celebration. And that is the spirit of the model. So we celebrate together with the coachee in terms of the small steps, the aha moments in the session, and also the big achievements as we go through the coaching journey. The way I coach is to enable coachees to commit to 12 months, 15, 16 sessions over 12 months. I choose not to coach for small amounts of time unless it's someone I've coached already. So you can imagine during that year, that is a lot of celebration, and you really get to know the person that you're coaching. And then see here, what we've done at the top is to show why we've included reflection in the model. And then underneath that, we've shown you from the ICF competencies, the elements of the ICF competency model that relate to reflection. So embodies a coaching mindset. And we've got the definition there. Develops and maintains a mindset that is open, curious, flexible, and client-centered, be that a team or an individual. And then it's ongoing learning. And I've stressed it a lot, reflective practice for the coach and the coachee and the team. And then also bringing in the culture and the context. What's going on in your systems right now? Let's say it's the financial sector or the health or the hospitality sector. I mean, all those are so poignant right now, just thinking about it. And what's the impact of what's happening in the system in terms of what's going on for your team? And what way does purpose need to be recalibrated? And in terms of embodying a coaching mindset, who are you being as a coach? Supporting this coachee in front of you, but also for them, who are they being in their world? And what way are they showing up? Okay. And then regulate one's emotions. So we can use what's going on for us, self as instrument. Oh, I had a tight feeling in my chest when you shared that. What's coming up for you now around that? Doing that, reflecting back to them what we were experiencing is really valuable. And there's the regulation in terms of times when we need to shift the emotions to where the session needs to move to. So if they are walking around the swimming pool metaphorically and not jumping in, if we stay with them, that's a nice session. If we say to them with fierce courage, what's stopping you moving forward? Basically, jumping in the swimming pool as a metaphor, can you see the way we're regulating our emotions to take them to what's needed as a shift in the session? The other bit related to reflection, we've got here establishes and maintains agreements, and the element 10 out of that is the one that relates to reflection. Continues coaching in the direction of the client's outcome, and we stressed a lot around results for the session and their big results. And then maintaining presence, managing one's emotions to stay present with the client. Okay, so just check in with me. Is this useful in terms of understanding the model that we use, the CoachME model, and where the ICF core competency model fit together? If you want to take yourself off mute, you're very welcome. And so next, we'll move on from results. There's more on results there in terms of establish and maintains agreements. It's really interesting. I always stress results so much, and so many of these bits of the ICF model mention results all the way through the model. So when you look at these slides, you'll see that even more. And what we've got next, even more on results, cultivating learning and growth. That's the check-ins and the results at the end of this session as well. And this is beautiful. Partners with the client to close the session. And there's also one bit further down, which is asking the coachee, what way do you need or want to end this session today? So we don't always end with, and what are you learning and what are you going to act upon? We say to them, what would be the best way for us to end your coaching session today? It's beautiful and it's really impactful. So then in terms of action, the doing, communicating effectively, and especially the recognizes and inquires when there is more to what the client is communicating. We can even get them to act out and show me is not so good. Share an action in terms of what energy you want to move forward with after leaving this session. And it might be like, yay! By embodying in the moment, that helps them to connect with it, and they're more likely, research shows, to act upon the action steps that they've created as actions before the next session. And then being fully present, flexible, and staying. So what we've got next is the transition planning, which is so much clearer in the new ICF competencies. And they were created in terms of, if your job is a coach, this is your job description. So keeping that in mind, you'll understand more about the wording that ICF have chosen to use. So the bit to do with transition planning facilitates client growth, works with the client to integrate new awareness insights and so forth. Partners for goals, actions, the measurements in there, supports them. We can share resources with them. We can even now share an experience we had in terms of a topic that they are addressing, as long as we're not taking over the session. It's not about us and ego, and it doesn't take too much time. Okay. It was realized that to hold back on something that may be extremely valuable for the coachee to hear from our experience is actually detrimental. Now, that is a shift in terms of the new competencies. I mentioned belief, momentum, and celebration, celebrates the client's progress and success. And then skills, knowledge, and behaviors. So bringing in the work of, right in the middle there, John Gottman. When there's dysfunction, blame, shame, criticism, defensiveness, and so forth, when there is issues in relationships, the behavior element is so important there. And bring in values as well around that. And in terms of this element of the model, demonstrates ethical practice, embodies a coaching mindset. You'll notice some of them are in different elements because they are in results as well as other areas, and then cultivates trust and safety. So much more is there around psychological safety and values and beliefs and the environment that the person is in. Maintains presence. The difference between nosy and curiosity. The curiosity is the element of, that's interesting, that's in our mind, wow, that's interesting, that type of energy. And look there, number 6, silence, pause, or reflection. Again, reflection is here so much. And then the active listening, which was obviously very important, and there in the last one, the last model. Evokes awareness. So this bit is related again to the reflection, and it brings in skills, knowledge, and behaviors. It brings in action and results. It brings in transition planning. There's another possibility that I can work with. Okay. And then cultivates trust and safety again. Seeks to understand the client within their context. This bit is beautiful. At the bottom, number 6, displays vulnerability. Being in a coaching session and asking the coachee, where do we need to go next? Because I'm not sure right now. And that is vulnerability, and that creates trust, and that shows authenticity. That is absolutely okay. Or what question would you ask yourself if you were the coach right now, or the fly on the wall type of scenario? And then maintains presence and listening actively again. And then in terms of the field and the system, So the field, be it education, the field, be it foreign direct investment, the field being oil and gas, and the system where they are in terms of the place, the knowledge that is around them. Things such as when you've got a team, the power relations, the play in terms of who was first to join and last to join the team, and the person that's moved on from the team, yet they are still present even though they've even left the organization. That is tapping into the knowledge in the system. Okay, and the trust is in here, and also listen actively. Look at number 6. Of course, we've only got 1 to 6 because these are the ones relevant to field and system under listening actively. Notice his trend in the client's behaviours, emotions, and so forth. Bringing in patterns supports a systemic focus. So what I mean by that is, I'm bad at time management, for example. Iman, I need to talk to you because you're the time coach. What happens there is, what other areas of your life does this show up? And I guarantee if they're late for meetings, they're late for deadlines, they're probably late for dinner with their family as well, okay? And that way we're working with the person, not just the issue. And that's what's needed for masterful coaching. It's all about the relationship. The coach and the coachee partner in the relationship to enable the best coaching to happen, and check in on the relationship. What's working for us in terms of our relationship? What else do we need to strengthen in terms of our relationship for even more to happen? So Christian, I understand the need to, I'm very happy to share, so you get the end of the recording for sure.
Thank you very much, and apologies. I need to go to another meeting now at 1 o'clock at my time, but thank you very much, Claire. It was very interesting, and I actually love to hear, especially what you say on systemic coaching. So I'm looking forward. Apologies to disturb you, but thank you very much.
No problem. And you're very welcome to attend the other sessions. And one of them is on systemic coaching itself.
Excellent.
See you soon.
Okay, I will do that. See you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Good to have you here. So then, let's have a little reflection ourselves in terms of what I've shared quite fast and a lot. What are you noticing cognitively in your mind, somatically in your body? And I know some people need to dip off, no worries at all. Emotionally and intuitively. Anyone like to share? Pleasure, Kerry. Yes, Iman.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for this, amount of knowledge that you were sharing. I was just, just wait, please wait, slower, something like this. It was awesome. I was, classifying the whole model and the whole new things that you have just shared I have just 2 questions. First of all, is this category good? I have just categorized the whole program into 3 main sections. First, first it is self-awareness. Second, it's self-reflection, and third, it's self-regulation. These 3. That's I have come to the conclusion that the whole model can bring us to these 3. Self-awareness, self-reflection, and also self-regulation. Is there anything that you want to add to these sorts of self things, my dear? And I have another question too.
I love that completely. And Iman, I'm feeling a co-created article coming on in terms of what you've just shared. Let's do it. So yes. Those 3 things, I think that's great. And my question for you is, and what ways can those 3 things impact the results for the coachee and the systems that they live and work in? So as well as it being internal, let's also I wonder what fourth element could be a focus out there.
Out there, this is the internal aspects and external aspects. The whole model, yes, of course. The thing is that I was so the fourth section could be the external environments. But the only problem is that people, especially in coaching, many coaching sessions, they focus on external things, on external triggers, on the environment and whatever it is. But this model is really fantastic, that is working on self. For sure, we can go ahead with co-creating many articles, for sure. Another question, my dear.
Just before you go to the second question, I think
Yes.
they're D as well, cultivating learning and growth. So I'm wondering, with your three things, a fourth one, maybe self-growth. That feels future focused as well.
Yes.
And of course, I'm saying that off the top of my head.
Oh, yes, thank you. Another question is that, we cannot forget the teaching points during the coaching sessions. Of course, we are not mentoring people, we are coaching people, and we will go through some, of course, question-based things. But, my dear, in this model, of course, it's a systemic model, it's dynamic model, and you cannot, push through any special part for any teaching point. But if you yourself in your coaching sessions would like to go ahead with some, teaching points, where do you see people has got, places to improve for the teaching point part, not the mentoring point parts?
So, again, aligned to the new competencies. I'd start in the middle. From the teaching, be proactive. What results need to be gained that will then benefit the coachee and the systems that they are in? And the teaching there is around knowledge. So what we can do in the knowledge bit is share something like a model that is useful. So whether you share this model, or let's say someone's thing, we see habits in the coaching that they are playing victim. So the Cartman drama triangle, villain, victim, hero. It is okay to bring that up and share it with them, and then flip it to the empowerment triangle, creator, challenger, coach. So who are you being right now? And they might go, oh gosh, yeah, I'm playing victim. And who do you need to be? So we've got the knowledge from the model, but we've got the behavior element here. Who do you need to be in this situation to have more impact? And then they may say, I need to be the challenger on the empowerment model, and then move that to skills. And you need to be the empowerer. The challenger, sorry. Challenger. In terms of being a challenger, what skills have you got that you can draw upon to be the challenger? So there, I've actually brought in skills, knowledge, and behaviors.
Of course, and also experience.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So they're tapping into reflection of what skills they've used before, what skills are their strengths that they can use to catapult them forward into this situation.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Mike.
Pleasure. Any more questions? Okay, so I mentioned at the start, mentor coaching really helps us to understand where we're at, where we need to be in terms of competencies and to close the gaps. And the supervision, in an absolute nutshell, works on, it's similar to what you were saying, Iman, if you flip it to the coach, works on you as a coach in terms of your growth and who you need to be, your signature presence for the impact you need to create for your clients. Okay, so we do have a program starting 1st of December, enabling people to train in mentor coaching. You've got to have at least 40 hours of actual coach training, whether it's ICF or other ones where we know the curriculum. And it also helps people going for PCC and beyond, because you can turn the competencies on their head by seeing them from the other side to understand what ICF are looking for. So that program starts on the 1st of December. And the other sessions that we're doing in this series, again, you'll get this slide. The way it works, these sessions are complimentary. If you want the ICF CCE certificate from it, the link's at the bottom there, and it's $15 for the certificate. And the areas over the next couple of weeks, we're now into the third one, and then we've got somatic coaching in self as instrument, reflective practice, systemic coaching with teams, using a systemic coaching in any coaching, even one-on-one coaching, the TAP 360, team advanced profile, pricing, pitching and promotions. That's going to be a really fun session. And you will practice pitching, and we'll also look at the way you can package coaching. And I'll share some of my experiences and rookie stuff from years ago that didn't quite work in flow. And then supervision and reflective practice. Centric States is a fun session, and that is going to be embodiment and interactive. And then creativity and the CoachMe picture cards. So we need you to share the word core competencies if you are claiming your CCEs. And that's it from me for now. Any questions? Anyone like to share their biggest learning from this session? You're on silent, Will.
I was talking to myself.
Oh, that's okay. That's reflection. We love that.
But I didn't answer myself. I was only speaking to myself. I liked.
Before I was a coach, I used to think that anyone who talks to himself is crazy. And then I realized I talk to myself a lot.
Yeah.
Even if it's just in here, it's healthy. Will.
I love the question that I'd like to start using, and I wrote it down here. It says, what would be the best way to end our coaching session today? I love that. That is very, very powerful. And the second big takeaway that I got was the coach as the mirror, where you're reflecting back to the coachee. Pretty powerful. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I know you've got to go, Iman. Thank you for your input here today. Anyone else like to share before we close? Maeve.
Yes, hi dear, hi again. Thank you very much, honey, and it was amazing and a lot of things to learn. I like the model, the result model. Actually, it's core competencies model that it's really organized our steps in the coaching sessions and to cover all the areas that we have to cover in the sessions, especially that sometimes in the sessions with the coachee we go just like far away from where we have to go, so that model will always just keep us on the right track that we have to be on the session. So thank you very much for this model. We definitely, all of us will gonna use it all the time. Yay. In our sessions. Yes, definitely. And
it's in
also,
Arabic as well, May, of course.
Thank you, dear. And all the development, like the self-awareness, the self-development, it's very important actually to work on when our coaches, and this is the main target of the coaching sessions that we are all used to help with the coaches. So thank you very much, dear. Pleasure. Interesting and a lot of learning things today. Thank you, honey.
Thank you. And one tip there, May, when you say we can go off track in the session, dip back into results. So the result you wanted from this session was X. Thanks, Will. Was X. Are we on track? Just that little question. Well, that's a yes or no. It's not an ideal question, but dipping back into results. What way is what we're discussing right now fitting the results that you wanted for this session? That keeps us on track as well. And looking at the model, that's why results are there, slap bang in the center. Anyone else like to share?
May I add one more thing, please?
Sure.
Yes, and I like the idea how we can ask the coachee what is which level of energy you want to end this session. Also, it's very important actually to end the session with the energy and like very great mood with this coachee, just to end the session and starting with the commitments that we agreed on. This is very important, the energy level. Yeah, it's very important that definitely we will work on just to get the highest energy at the end of the session. Yeah, thank
May
you.
I love that. And may I offer you something around that?
Sure.
So yes, I get it. And there's times when, for example, someone's going through divorce,
Yeah.
or they've lost their job,
Mhm.
or a family member's got
Down, yeah.
COVID.
Mhm.
It may be staying with them in this energy is what's needed, and they need to process it even more. So be aware in terms of what you're experiencing and your intuition is telling you. That type of session, or a bereavement, someone's passed away.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to end exactly where they're at, and they just end with an inquiry as well. Makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Really makes sense.
Thank you. Anyone else like to share? Yes, Mona.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I'm my colleagues from Ministry of Public Health in Doha. Thank you very much for your speech. It was great and fruitful, really. I want to ask you, mentioned something about the question cards for managers, I guess. Actually, we are
Yes.
now, in the appraisal period everywhere.
Yeah.
Performance appraisal for the employees. So how can we benefit from these question cards for our managers can utilize it?
Okay, so we actually sell the cards so that you can, and we've got them in Arabic and English, and they're coming in Farsi, and they're also coming in Russian and other languages. We've got them in French as well, so that you can play with them and use them in those appraisal sessions. If you would like a session just around the cards, I would be very happy to support you on that. And it may be other people, may want to come, other people may want to come as well. Very happy to support you around that.
Yeah, we're really interested in that, and we have or thinking in a plan to have our own cards. But if you have it already, maybe you can give us some samples or explain some of them to us, so we can decide about purchasing them or to have do our own or what. So it will be great if you can share somewhere with us anytime.
Sure. And the way it works as well with the cards, it may be it's mapped to our model. So obviously it links with ICF completely. And it may be that the focus of that appraisal session is on results, and you're working with a team, and you just take the results bit of the cards. Or it may be randomly pick a card at the start of a team session and see what that card says. It's amazing what comes out of even picking the cards randomly. And then other times, for example, if you've got someone in the organization who, non-attender, coming late, leaving early, for example, there may be certain questions that you want to take from the pack to include those. So you can almost pre-prepare. And of course, it's important to stay in the moment, but by having a think of what might be needed in that particular performance management session is really useful as well. Because performance management is slightly different than pure non-directive coaching, because it's about the organizational strategy, what the team needs to achieve, what the individual needs to achieve, and their objectives. And if you think of it like that, it is slightly led in terms of what needs to be discussed. Anyone else like to share? Okay, so shukran jazilan. fabulous to have you all here today, and we will record this. We'll put it on YouTube in case you want to. You might want to play it back at a slower speed because I've talked a lot and quite fast. And look forward to seeing you on the other sessions. If you're not on our mailing list, let me know if you want to be added to it. We don't put you on automatically just because of GDPR. Okay? Masalama, have a fabulous day.